Quality might degrade slightly. That doesn't matter because it's going to send me a high quality file afterwards anyway. This is just for the purposes of the connection. By the way, where are you located?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, all the way down there.
Yeah, I call it the People's Commonwealth of Mexylvania. Here I am, 2,000 miles north of the southern border, and it is just. I walk outside and I hear Spanish from all the immigrants. It's awful, man. It is awful. That's a conquest tactic. The wide open borders are a conquest tactic, whether it's the United States or Europe or you name it. Constantly flowing in with migrants, and the migrants are encouraged not to assimilate. It causes all kinds of anger with the populace. That's by design.
That's a Marxist strategy.
Yes. You know what? You can go as far back into the Bible, the conquest of the northern tribe of Israel, how the Assyrians conquered Israel and then forced them to intermarry and intermingle. That was a conquest tactic.
Okay, that's also a great conversation, but let's not get diverted.
Too easy.
All right, let me start off then with the boring intro. Giovanni Cirucci, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
I'm thrilled, brother. I'm absolutely thrilled. This is really a bucket list moment for me. Love you. Love your show, man.
Thank you. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
No. Giovanni Cirucci. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. You bet.
I mean, you sound Italian, and I'm nervous now about you sending mafia my way.
I wish. I used to joke when I was in school that my family has friends in low places. Unfortunately, they've never availed themselves of me. I've never had an opportunity to say, go get them. I've never been offered, to come on in and join the family and make big money and then be part of the team. It's never come my way. So if there's something sneaking in my family tree, they haven't let me know about it, which is unfortunate for me.
The only thing missing is you don't have that Sylvester Stallone thing going with the accent.
I could work that. I could work that too easy. I tell people, I tell my fans, one thing I always do is the plural of you, more than one you, is use. That's how they say it in Philadelphia. My family is from the South Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, so all of yous, I love yous. So we can at least we do that, Adrian. We did all in love yous.
I'm going to invite you back just for that.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Giovanni, all right, let's start with this. Who or what is the black nobility?
To answer that, I think it's very important to go to the big picture. And the big picture is, Jerm, what do you and I do? We're an alternative media, and our job, center myself here, our job is to do what legacy media won't do. And it's pretty obvious, pretty clear anywhere in the West that what you see is not what you get. That your politicians, clearly Joe Biden doesn't know where he is. Donald Trump is obviously a caricature. Barack Obama couldn't go to the bathroom without reading his teleprompter. George Bush was too busy golfing with his dad to know what was going on. So it's obvious that there's something going on behind the scenes, and we want to know who it is and what it is. Well, it's also intuitive, Jerm, that if there is a great Wizard of Oz, there's a puppet master behind the curtain. They've had plenty of time and plenty of resources to mask themselves, to make themselves invisible, so that if you go onto the internet, Google is not a verb, but if you Google and ask, well, who's really controlling behind the scenes, you'll get an answer from Google. And it's not, obviously, that the machine has the power and the resources to make themselves invisible. And I believe that is what they have done. And I spent 20 years in the military, and I was blessed by the Lord. I was born and raised Roman Catholic and became a born-again Christian in college. And I was blessed by the Lord to have an absolutely miserable time in the military. wanted to do certain things, wanted to do Hollywood things, from fly jets to special forces, and each and every time I got skunked and ended up just having an absolute miserable time. Well, the Lord used that, because by the time I got out, and I did 20 years between the Marine Corps, the Army, and the National Guard. By the time I got out, I was so fed up that I rushed my way out. Even though I had 20 years, they claimed I didn't have enough points for a complete retirement. So it fueled me into being a malcontent and to looking deeper in things. I was also blessed to not get a real job. I had to swap roles with my wife, and while I was enabling her, I just became a journalist, an investigative journalist. I learned that in college, learned how to defend myself when I was in a minority, how to use citations, don't have my own opinion, names, places, and dates. And this put me on a path to looking deeper, especially after my experience in Iraq. I was truly upset and miserable during my deployment. You hear guys, oh yeah, I did 5 deployments, 8 deployments. No, I was miserable in Iraq. I hated every minute of it. It was a year of my life. There's the movie The Princess Bride, which is, by the way, a very Jesuitical movie. My name is Inigo Montoya, not Inigo Loyola. No, that's done on purpose, where they torture the Wesley, and the bad guy comes in and he pulls a lever and he burns off a year of his life, and all they can do is cry. That's a deployment. That's a deployment, okay? And not to mention the terrible things that I saw, that I witnessed, the destruction of Iraqi infrastructure, people living in squalor, people who were happy and free and peaceful, including Christians who were worshiping freely in Iraq before the intervention of the United States military. All of this went together to have me leave the military and ask a lot of questions. The big buzzwords at that time when I was asking those questions are Illuminati, and me seeing connections to my former Catholic Church and to the Jesuits that I had not seen prior when I asked the question, who are the Illuminati? That put me on this path of where I am today, as being an investigative journalist, doing the job that no one else will do, and that nobody pays to do either. So bring us full circle. That's why we're here. That's we're trying to give information to an audience that they're not going to get on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. And so you always want to look deeper. So you go to the internet and you ask who's in charge, who's controlling the. Well, ask Candace Owens or Kanye West or Nick Fuentes, and the answer is obvious. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. Well, okay, you go into the internet and you Google it, and you get the name like Rothschild. Okay, well, it just so happens that Google was born on the 27th of September, which is the birthday of the Jesuits. Haha. Is it possible that you're being set up to receive an emotional answer, an answer that's designed to spur your emotions and focus you on a particular group of people or a particular family they're basically patsies. They're not guiltless, Jerm. They absolutely are managers. They're evil people, but there is a hierarchy above them that is invisible. And this is key. This is why the issue of the black nobility is important, and yet it's simply another step in that direction of feeding you, getting you closer to the truth, bringing you closer to the fire of truth without necessarily jumping in. So the bottom line is that as we focus on the black nobility, this is a fantastic question to ask. This is a fantastic issue because you're getting past Rothschild and Rockefeller, and they're just managers, and I've got some examples of that. And you're getting closer to the truth, but you're still not getting to the truth, because the most important thing about the black nobility, the families there, they need the infrastructure, Jerm. They need the intelligence gathering. They need the reach. Families, in and of themselves, no matter how powerful, no matter how wealthy, they don't have the connections, and those connections are provided by the Catholic Church. And let me back up a little bit and give examples of how we're tempted to get caught up and stop with it's the Jews. Because as soon as you pull yourself in, and it's not just hatred that's involved, it's emotion, period, in relation to it's the Jews. The pendulum, I tell my audience this, the machine loves to slam the pendulum between love the Jews, hate the Jews. Look, Candace Owens leaving the Daily Wire, run by Shapiro, Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, a hyper-Orthodox Jew, who, and Candace Owens, few people realize, I got a little echo here. How about you? Echo, yes?
Just hang on a second. My microphone was set incorrectly. Let me just, sorry, before we continue, it's coming through on the wrong microphone. I think it's coming through on the, you're not hearing this microphone, I don't think.
I got you clearly. I have you clearly.
Hold on, before we continue, this is not good. I want to make sure that I am coming through on the correct microphone. The guy who does my video edits, he will have to do a little bit of magic for this first section. I'm so sorry, I completely broke the flow. Do you remember more or less where you were?
Yeah. So
I see that we are recording, so
good. I usually throw out the joke to my audience that when I go down a rabbit trail, hopefully there's somebody at the back of at the opening of the rabbit trail holding a lighter. I'm showing me back the way. Hey, here's you. Winding around. Come back. So basically, let me put my phone on vibrate because that's getting on my nerves. There we go. So yeah, it's too easy to go right back where we were because it has to do with what the subject matter is in relation to what you and I do as alternative media is to try to bring to the audience the information they need that they're not getting from legacy media. It makes sense. It's intuitive, Jerm. It's absolutely intuitive that if there is a machine controlling from behind the scenes, that it has tremendous money and resources to put out distractions. The metaphor I give to my audience is heads of the hydra that immediately grow back. You go after that head of the hydra, you chop that off, and it grows right back. And these are powerful. These are powerful sources. These are powerful managers. They absolutely are guilty. It's easy for you to stop there at Freemasonry, at those who have a tie to Judaism and Zionism. It's even better when they use nondescript words like Illuminati or deep state, which is government bureaucracy. Well, how are you going to fight the deep state? How are you going to fight the government bureaucracy? You don't. That's the important thing. There's no way for you to fight back. So in particular, what's useful to the machine, getting you to focus on people tied to Judaism, whether ethnically or religiously or both, is it encourages an emotional response. And as I was saying before we had our issues, the emotional response is not necessarily strictly hatred or anger. You do see a lot of that in relation to, oh, wow, like I said, Kanye West and Candace Owens, that's where we had our issues. Few people realize that Candace Owens, her white husband, is a very devout Roman Catholic. His father is a member of the House of Lords. As a matter of fact, she has been regularly pregnant for the past 3 years. She told Bill Maher, I've been pregnant for 3 years because my husband is very devout Catholic and he doesn't believe in contraception. Oh, well, that's interesting. And that's also indicative of how Candace Owens and the Ben Shapiro issue of, oh, wow, she's anti-Israel and pro-Palestine and he's vehemently pro-Israel. The bottom line to all that is emotion. Emotion is brought out from all the players involved, and it helps you, encourages you to disconnect critical thought, to really examine the data, the names, places, and dates. And instead, you're riding this pendulum, love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews. And this is actually, like I said, it's not just hatred. In the fundamental evangelical Christian community, there's a lot of Zionism. There's a lot of mindless love for the Jews, whereas on the supposed left end of the spectrum, there's mindless anger for the Jews in relation to very real crimes that have occurred in Palestine, of the beating down of the Palestinian people, by design, by the way. Guys like Yasser Arafat that kissed the ring of John Paul II, Pope St. John Paul II. Yasser Arafat, a closet homosexual that was a machine puppet who the machine relied on him to be part of the tyranny that keeps Palestinian people in misery and in basically concentration camps. He's part of that. That's how he rose to run the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. So all I say is that there's something bigger. There's something behind that. Don't just look at the distraction. Now, the black nobility gets you a lot closer because you're talking about ancient, powerful families. Good grief. And, so you'll frequently come across on the internet, here's the top 7 black nobility families that rule the world from behind the scenes. That's not accurate. The black nobility families are much more than 7, but there's a roller coaster of their power. Depending upon which point in history you look at, is their ebb and their flow. The families include and are not exclusive to Aldo, Brandini, Orsini, Colonna, Borgia, Medici, Farnese. By the way, all of those are Italian except for the Borgia. And that's what you find. There is a central locus in Italy, and especially in Rome. Why is that? Because these black nobility families derive their power from plugging into the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church provides the skeleton, the nucleus, the infrastructure that these families, if these families didn't have a nucleus or an infrastructure that they can plug into, they would simply be like the old style medieval city-state. They would have power within a certain reach and not beyond that. I had a couple of examples real quick of why we should look past
let's do it.
Jewish managers. Look at the Rothschilds. There's no arguing the power of the Rothschild banking family. One of my favorite books to mention outside of my own is the 1999 book Rulers of Evil from Frederick Tupper Saucy. He goes into great detail in how the Rothschild family ascended into power. Meyer Amschel Rothschild, the godfather of international banking, he is listed by certain sources as simply the caretaker of the Vatican Treasury. He was empowered by Protestant, so-called Protestant Freemasons like Frederick of Hesse II and his son William. The Rothschild dynasty was put into place by insider training and war profiteering that they would not have had if they didn't have an intelligence gathering apparatus. And the intelligence gathering comes from the Catholic Church and from the confessional. So when anybody says it's the Jews, it's the Freemasons, what Jews and Freemasons don't have is intelligence gathering across the world of adherents. Anywhere there is someone who is a devout Catholic, anywhere there's a confessional, you have a source of intelligence gathering that these other managers don't have. And supposedly the watershed event for the Rothschilds was Waterloo in 1815. Well, what led up to that was Napoleon Bonaparte. Of course, Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't French. He was Italian Roman Catholic. His family emigrated to the island of Corsica, and after the suppression of the Jesuits, which Frederick Tupper Saucy says was done by the Jesuits, crazy story related to the Templars, we'll save that for another show, they all left France during the temporary suppression. Many of them ended up in the island of Corsica, so you had a disproportionate, like 1 in 15 Corsicans was a Jesuit priest. Crazy. So there's no doubt that Napoleon Bonaparte, this was when he was 7 years old, there's no doubt that Napoleon Bonaparte was born, raised, and mentored by Jesuits. He had a Jesuit-trained Roman Catholic priest as his consigliere, Abbé Joseph Sias. And he was also a Freemason, but most importantly is his connections to the Roman Catholic Church. So the Vatican had inside information on Napoleon Bonaparte, his ups and downs, his wins and his losses, there's no doubt that he sacrificed his army in Russia. It was absolutely foolhardy what he did, his campaign that he undertook. And so it was purely scripted how it was that the Rothschilds were able to insider trade on Napoleon's loss at Waterloo. Rothschild's original banking corporation, he created an acronym for his company, Meyer, Amschel, Rothschild und Sohn, which spells, the acronym is Mars, the Roman god of war. Rothschild in German can be translated to red shield, which is what the Roman military carried into battle. So this is some of the great information that Frederick Tupper Saucy says proves that the Rothschilds were the handmaids of the of the Roman Catholic Church. Another great source is red pill Jewish author Emanuel Josephson, one of my favorite books, The Federal Reserve and the Rockefellers, Their Gold Corner. Josephson makes the accusation, and highly believable, that the Vatican was making huge money with usury. Many people do not know this. You look up usury banking and automatically you get redirected towards Jewish bankers. That's not true. Usury banking was created by the Templars in their service to the Roman Catholic Church and perfected under the Medici, one of the black nobility families. By the way, the Medici produced, I believe, 3 popes and a slew of cardinals and many more bishops and priests. Usury banking was created by the Templars to facilitate pilgrimages of Roman Catholics to the Holy Land. They were finding that they were being preyed upon by robbers in the Holy Land. They needed protection. So the Templars stepped up. They provided a service to Roman Catholic pilgrims in the Holy Land. They would take their valuables. They would give them a receipt that was sealed with a cryptic Templar seal that could only be translated by another Templar. When they left their pilgrimage, they would have to pay a percentage of their valuables, thus creating usury banking, thus creating interest, the concept of interest in banking. The Templars became fabulously wealthy as a result of this, and the Medici took it and ran. By the way, the English bank is derived from the Italian banco, which is the countertop that the Medici did their business over. Well, this was a problem for Europe and for Roman Catholics in Europe because it was illegal amongst the Catholic Church. Usury banking was illegal, and this was very upsetting to Europeans and Catholics, Europeans in general, Catholics in specific. So the Vatican needed proxies, and Emanuel Josephson says in his 1968 book, Federal Reserve and Rockefellers, the Jews made excellent banker proxies to receive the anger and the hate of usury banking. Meanwhile, they're secretly feeding money to the Vatican. Another great example is, look at modern Israel. Israel is one of the most vaccinated countries in the world. If Israel is secretly ruling the world, then they're taking the world over simply to vaccinate themselves to death, all part of the scamdemic. You've got people like George Soros. In 1998, George Soros told Steve Kroft of 60 Minutes about his past, which was pretending to be a Roman Catholic. He was the nephew of a Hungarian Catholic, I believe tied to the Roman Catholic Habsburgs, huge black nobility family, disguised during World War II as a Roman Catholic, Hungarian Roman Catholic, and his job was to go around with his uncle and confiscate property of fellow Jews. He told Steve Kroft in 1998 it was the happiest time of his life. I have the clip. He's like, well, yes, somebody had to do it, so why not me? Is that not... Now, nobody knows that about George Soros. You would think if the Jews ruled the world, he'd be the last person to have this ascendancy as the archetypical malignant Jewish puppet master. And yet, if there is a puppet master above these Jews who secretly hates them, he is the perfect match. Another great example of why we need to look beyond Jews. You look at a guy like Mark Zuckerberg and social networking in general, and Facebook, aka Meta, with its rebranding today. Just by coincidence, Jerm, DARPA had a year-long social network experiment called LifeLog. LifeLog ended on February 4th in 2004. You know what else happened on February 4th, 2004? Facebook started. Facebook started just by coincidence. Nothing to see here. So there's definitely this desire to froth us up and get our emotions flowing, to have us disconnect and not look beyond a particular group of people, such as the Jews. And black nobility comes closer, but still doesn't jump into the fire. And I've got some examples why it's worthwhile to look at black nobility. I didn't get past it. The very first name go ahead.
Let me just jump in there. You said you had slides. You are welcome to display them if you want.
Excellent. Yeah, I will. I've got a couple more bullet points to hit before I get into and this next one. I've got some pictures to share. The very first one on my list, like I said, these names, they ebb and flow. Colonna, Orsini, Borgia, Breakspear, Aldo Brandini. Stop at Aldo Brandini, the A on my list. Aldo Brandini intermarried with the Rothschilds in France. They also intermarried with the Anatori in Florence. The Aldo Brandini produced at least one pope, Clement VIII, and several cardinals for the Catholic Church. They are allied with the House of Saud. They have a very close relationship with the Vatican. Covert alliance. Through Freemasonry, they have an alliance with Islam. Ignatius Loyola, co-founder of the Jesuits, its first superior general, was a Basque noble. The Aldo Brandini have bloodlines into Basque country.
Wasn't he a crypto Jew?
You know, that I've seen that accusation a lot, and whenever I see crypto Jew, it is my first thought is, how do you prove that? How do you names, places, and dates? You can throw that mud against any wall that you want and get people frothed up. How do you prove bloodlines? How do you say it's one of those examples of a quick distraction to get people wrapped up? I've seen very little evidence that would convince me. Now, granted, through the Inquisition, there were many Jews who became conversos, who were forcibly converted to Catholicism. Some of them stayed Jewish underground and secretly. But the bottom line, here's a great test for anyone that asks this question, Jerm, including yourself. What happened? You look at Ignatius Loyola. Okay, let's just say, for sake of argument, that he was crypto Jew. How did he help Judaism? What did he do that empowered Jews? So you look at the bottom line, the punchline. I'm looking at Loyola's life, and I see nothing but powerful leaps forward for the Roman Catholic Church. I don't see any gains of Judaism. And if you want to claim that centuries later, the rebirth of Israel helped Judaism, I would tell you it has not. It has made Jews a huge spotlight of distraction and has not helped them in the slightest. In fact, it has made them a dartboard for hatred and anger. Another great example of Jews versus Jesuits is education, indoctrination, and propaganda. A quick example off the top of my head. I've got a whole separate list of separate notes. Actually, I can pull that up. I've got an Excel spreadsheet. Who is it that actually trains people? You have people in the spotlight. I'll give you an example from my own state of Pennsylvania here in the United States. The current governor of Pennsylvania is a guy by the name of Josh Shapiro, who is, of course, Jewish. He is a Jewish lawyer. Lawyers and doctors are huge in power structures, very corrupt professions that mask their criminality in the language of Rome, Latin. Josh Shapiro. What put Josh Shapiro on the map? He was formerly the top cop in Pennsylvania, the attorney general. And there was a big investigation in the Catholic Church and systemic child trafficking. Now, let me pause here and say child trafficking, to the extent that the Catholic Church has been involved, mass rape of children with the collusion of governments everywhere, Jerm, everywhere. Australia, Ireland, Canada, the United States. The Roman Catholic Church has gotten away with mass systemic rape and of children, and had the collusion of these governments. I've got the article. Buffalo police told by their chain of command, secular Buffalo police told by the chain of command, don't touch Roman Catholic priests when investigating pedophiles. Are you kidding me? How did this not result in the chief of police being put in jail? It didn't, just the opposite. So those are examples of who really controls the world. War crime, Jerm, war crime, to rape your kids and get away with it. So Josh Shapiro did.
What about somebody like Epstein, though? I mean, he was Jewish.
Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, a household family name, a household word brought to you by legacy media. Why would the legacy media cover child pimp Jeffrey Epstein and not cover anybody? How is it that we say Jeffrey Epstein and we don't say Donald Trump and Bill Clinton with their arms around each other on Rape Island, taking the Lolita Express back and forth? Don't worry about that. All we need to know is Jeffrey Epstein, and he's dead, of course. He died. He committed suicide twice in federal prison while on suicide watch. Are you kidding me? As a quick aside, I'm happy to go down this rabbit trail of what happened as a result. So you've got the Osama bin Laden of child trafficking. And oh, by the way, whenever you look at Jeffrey Epstein, all you see is teenage girls. I promise you, it is much worse than that. It is much worse than that. It is much younger children of both genders. But that's been erased by the legacy media. The only reason the legacy media would cover Jeffrey Epstein is because he's a patsy. He's a pimp. He's nothing more than a pimp. He had people above him and people below him, to include the president of the ex-president of the United States, and the guy that's going to save us all when he comes back in, Donald Trump. What? What happened as a result? You had the Osama bin Laden of child trafficking and Jeffrey Epstein. He was not just, okay, first of all, he was arrested back in, I think, 05 or 07. The federal prosecutor, who is Puerto Rican, Cuban, Roman Catholic descent, Acosta was his name. The federal prosecutor, there were like 15 local charges in Florida and 5 federal charges. Epstein should have been locked. That's not real justice, by the way. Prison is not real justice. Prison industrial complex, that's a whole nother show. Epstein should have been locked away forever and ever. And instead, Acosta dropped all 5 without a plea deal. Without a plea deal, dropped all 5 charges. And Epstein did like 15 months of house arrest, which basically means no TV on Wednesday nights, come back and check in with the guard every weekend. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The crimes that this guy has committed. Years later, he gets rearrested. Okay. And, oh, by the way, in the meantime, Acosta is up. Donald John Trump Donald John Trump trained by the Jesuits at Fordham, and then he left Fordham for the private University of Pennsylvania. And I've got sources that says University of Pennsylvania, ever since Benjamin Franklin, Hellfire Club Benjamin Franklin started, the university has been run by the Jesuits. Donald Trump taps, I think it's Alexander Acosta, to be his labor secretary. Well, that's an interesting choice. A federal prosecutor that let go one of the biggest human trafficking fish, child trafficking fish ever to be caught by the system. Why would Donald Trump pick him as labor secretary? He picked him because the labor secretary manages child trafficking regulations and oversight. That's very convenient. And then the spotlight went on Acosta, and he had to be shooed away. So you've got the Osama bin Laden rearrested of child trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein, his Manhattan apartment where he's got a picture of him and Ghislaine Maxwell kissing the ring of Pope St. John Paul II. And he is not just under federal custody, but suicide watch. And I'll tell you, as a member of the military, you've got layer upon layer upon layer of responsibility and security. And even though he's in federal custody on suicide watch, he's like sitting in a whatever. He's no belt, no shoelaces. They feed him through a straw. Ridiculous levels of security on suicide watch, and he commits suicide twice anyway. First he tries it, and okay, he's on suicide watch, and he tries to commit suicide. You would think at that point that guy is naked. He's not getting a moment alone. Nope. He tries it again and is successful the second time because we're all really that stupid. What was the outcome of Jeffrey Epstein, the Osama bin Laden of child trafficking, and his apparent suicide in prison? By the way, I personally believe that he's back on his rape island sipping Mai Tais with all the other frauds out there. What was the outcome? Well, the Attorney General of Donald Trump, a guy by the name of Bill Barr, from that same lineage of Jews who convert to become hyper-devout Roman Catholics, Bill Barr took the Secretary of the Bureau of Prisons, who I think was Jewish or secular, and replaced him with a Roman Catholic Jesuit-trained female, Hawk Sawyer. I forget her first name. Hawk Sawyer. And that's it. So, like I said, from a guy in the military, when you look at a supposed screw-up of that nature, there should be bureaucratic dead bodies lined up. So here, what? Are you kidding me? Who went wrong from the guards to the warden all the way to the top? And yet there's only one thing that happened. Bill Barr replaced the Secretary of the Bureau of Prisons and installed a female Jesuit-trained Catholic. Bill Barr, very interesting guy. Like I said, hyper-devout Roman Catholic, family converted from Judaism. His father, Donald Barr, worked for Bill Donovan, a Wall Street DuPont war profiteering lawyer. And we all love Bill Donovan so much, we call him Wild Bill. Well, I don't love Bill Donovan. I call him Mild Bill. He was the founder of the OSS, the godfather of the CIA himself. Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, worked for OSS founder Bill Donovan. And like I said, he was a DuPont lawyer and Wall Street war profiteer. Donald Barr, this is fascinating. Donald Barr actually found Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody knows this. Donald Barr found the talent that was Jeffrey Epstein. And he was the headmaster of, oh my goodness. It was a Jewish dominated, what is it? Dalton. How did I forget that? I had so much information. He was a headmaster at Dalton. Donald Barr found Jeffrey Epstein, even though Jeffrey Epstein had flunked out of 2 separate universities. He found him and installed him as the math teacher at Dalton and then left before Jeffrey Epstein even arrived. There's something a little screwy going on there, okay? Just by coincidence. So that, to answer your question, what about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, that was quite a segue.
yeah. Okay, so back to our story, right?
Yes.
In relation to Jews versus Jesuits, in relation to looking past Jews onto the black nobility and, more importantly, onto the Roman Catholic Church, we're talking about the Aldobrandini, allied with the House of Saud, Ignatius Loyola, a crypto Jew. Oh, here's another example. Very often, so I see this crypto Jew. What you never see is what makes much more sense. Crypto Jesuit. So crypto Jew, again, the most thing you want to, what you want to look at in relation to crypto Jews is what have they done? What have they done to help Judaism? I'm looking for, I have a reference to the very first time. Here it is. 1800s. Lord Robert Montagu in 1886. In referencing politics in England, between England and Ireland. Ireland dominated by the Roman Catholic Church. A politician by the name of Lying Dick Talbot, Richard Talbot, the Earl of Tyrconnell. I believe I'm saying that right. Robert Montagu calls him a crypto Jesuit. Now, it is in the Jesuit oath to assume alternate identities and to become somebody else, to conduct espionage on behalf of the Jesuits of the Roman Catholic Church. 1886, Robert Montagu is the first time this idea of crypto anything comes into play. I submit to you that crypto Jesuit makes much more sense than crypto Jew, especially when you step back and look at what is gained? What did Loyola gain on behalf of the Roman Catholic Church? What did Loyola gain on behalf of Judaism? Nothing, I would tell you, on behalf of Judaism. Another example in this Aldobrandini family, Ranuccio Farnese married Margherita Aldobrandini, and the Farnese family, another black nobility family, produced Pope Paul III, who established the Jesuits on 27 September in 1540. By the way, 27 September, the birth date of Google. That's just a coincidence, nothing to see here. Another example of black nobility, why it's important to look at black nobility as through the Roman Catholic Church and the power that they have, is Hollywood. You've got a guy like Thomas Mapother IV. Have you seen any of his movies?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry. His stage name, Tom Cruise.
Oh, really?
Tom Cruise was born Thomas Cruise Mapother IV, and he is reputed to be a member of the Orsini family. Now, I don't have a lot of hard evidence on this, but I do have how in 2006 he married Roman Catholic Jesuit trained in drama Kate Noel Katie Holmes at the Orsini family castle. And I have some photographs there. I'll share this with you real quick here.
Well, that marriage turned out to be an impossible mission.
Right. As is so much of else of Tom Cruise's three marriages. Fascinating that he had. I thought there were some close-ups, and of course Yahoo didn't have close-ups. They just have a picture of the Orsini castle with the fireworks in the background. I've got a low-resolution photograph. It's not very good, but I'll share this anyway. Let's see here. Where is my share? There's my share. Where did it go? No, not Chrome. Here it is. Share. I apologize for how low the resolution is. Bottom line is, 2006 at the Orsini family castle, Thomas Cruise Mapother IV married Roman Catholic Katie Holmes. $3 million wedding. For a few people know this. So this to me is possible plausible deniability in relation, not plausible, but possible evidence in relation to Tom Cruise being a member of the Orsini family. This is why it's important to look at the black nobility, but the bottom line is there's something beyond the black nobility. Like I say, without the black nobility being plugged into the Roman Catholic Church as a network, as an infrastructure, as a skeleton. Let me give you another example. Black nobility family Visconti of Milan and the Sforza, also of Milan. The family crests include, I guess I should pull these up as well. Family crests include a serpent or a dragon, eating a man. Can I pull this tab over here and have you see that as well? The Sforza and the Visconti. Now, you may have seen this. On very expensive Italian cars like Alfa Romeo. This is reputed to be one of the Anthony Fauci family crests through Fauci's mother of the Swiss Abyss family, ABYS or ABYSS. Anthony Fauci, possibly connected to Swiss black nobility in that manner. Interesting confluence of English, abyss, also a possible metaphor for hell and Hades. Anthony Fauci, twice Jesuit trained, Italian Roman Catholic. I've got pictures of him standing next to human trafficker, the epitome of human compassion, Mother Teresa, Truth told about Mother Teresa, she was a vicious human trafficker, especially in India, possibly involved in mass murder. Children, teenagers would come in. This is the same paradigm that takes place everywhere, but especially in Ireland, where you'd have Roman Catholic families ashamed of their young daughters, being involved, getting pregnant at a young age, and becoming a family embarrassment. They would give these girls and their children to the Roman Catholic Church. The girls would be abused, raped, tortured, forced into hard labor, and their children taken from them and sold internationally. Francisco Franco of Spain was deeply involved. Again, the infrastructure. Francisco Franco deeply involved with the Catholic Church in human trafficking. He took the victims, he took his political enemies and used Roman Catholic hospitals. Here's one thing that the Jews, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, so-called Illuminati, here's what they don't have. Infrastructure, Jerm. They don't run, and if they do, they don't run nearly as many schools, orphanages, hospitals around the world and in secular countries. And they have the cooperation of secular governments. With these, you have secular judges in the United States doing things like sending Charles Manson, orphan Charles Manson, giving Charles Manson into the care of a Roman Catholic priest chaplain so that he gets taken to Boys Town in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, where he is so horrified by what he experiences, he runs away within 2 weeks. Boys Town is the epicenter of the so-called Franklin cover-up. The Franklin cover-up renamed that on behalf of, oh, by the way, Thomas Cruise Mapother IV, an almost priest himself. He went to a Franciscan seminary and supposedly was kicked out for smuggling in alcohol. Okay, we know that the Catholic Church and young priests are usually being subjected to and guilty of much worse than that. So I don't even know if I believe that story. But very devout Roman Catholic. But we will look on Scientology. Let's look past all these Catholic and black nobility connections to Scientology. Him and Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman, devout Roman Catholic, and her father, Anthony Kidman, though that family was accused by, let's see here. That family was accused by Fiona Barnett. Fiona Barnett, a possible child trafficking victim. She accused the Kidmans of being involved in systemic trafficking. Kidman married, I don't know how this is possible, Australian country music star. That seems like an oxymoron. How the power of the Roman Catholic Church. Bradley Cooper in his nose, the most beautiful man in anywhere in society. Time magazine, right? People magazine, right? No, he's just kind of weird. No. He is the most handsome. Why? Because he's Roman Catholic, and he is, I don't know that they're married. He's dating another Roman Catholic, another weird individual. Lady Gaga, what's her name? Germanata, right? And someone else who's deeply involved in possible ritual murder to get where she is. Germanata, very hyper-devout Roman Catholic. Anyway, the Kidmans, Roman Catholic, and Anthony Kidman died of a heart attack on September 12th in 2014 in Singapore at age 75. So, oh yeah, by the way, the kid, Nicole and Keith Urban have a family Jesuit. They are very devout Roman Catholic. They have a family Jesuit in Australia. So all these connections to the Catholic Church that really, Anthony Fauci were talking about. Let me pause and take a breath and see if you want to go in any particular direction or how much time, how long have we been going there? Go ahead. If there are directions you want to go into, there's so much to talk about.
We can go for another 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll invite you back for round two.
Yeah, happy to do it.
I just want to get an overall picture here. Okay, so when we talk about then the black nobility, why does knowing about them matter?
Because they are the next level above what you're told to look at and stop looking. Like I said, if you go onto the internet and make a search, the internet will point you towards people who are Jewish, towards Freemasons, or they'll give you some kind of a nebulous. Back in 2015 when I started looking, it was Illuminati. Illuminati this and Illuminati that. You're not told that the founder of the Illuminati was Johann Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit priest who was trained by the Jesuits his entire life. Started at 7 years old. The co-founder of the Jesuits, Francis Xavier, said, "Give me the child, give me the boy until he's 7, and I'll give you the man. I'll bet." Johann Adam Weishaupt went on to teach canon law at Jesuit Ingolstadt University in modern Munich. The godfather of both the Illuminati, communism, Jacobinism, you name it. And very few people know he was a collared-ordained Jesuit.
Wasn't Karl Marx at the forefront of communism?
Yes, he was, handed by the Jesuits. Karl Marx trained by the Jesuits in Trier. Nobody knows that. He was born in a Catholic island in Protestant Germany, and his father sent him to be trained by Jesuits. I have a source. Now, granted, take the source or leave it. Supposed ex-Jesuit priest Alberto Rivera says that Karl Marx was handed the tenets of the Communist Manifesto, and this is acknowledged, historically acknowledged. Marx spent time in a private reading room at the Royal Museum. Why would he do that? Why did he need privacy and of all places, the Royal Museum? Alberto Rivera, ex-Jesuit priest, says this is where the Jesuits handed him the tenets of communism. These are derived from Catholic principles all the way back to Augustine and the communal owning of property, which was perfected. This is also acknowledged historical fact, perfected by the Jesuits a century before in the 1700s in South America with their communes with the Guarani Indians. And this is where they put truth to power and learned how to really conduct an actual communist society. Reductionist. They were called reducciones, reductionist communes that they subjected to, and they would have the Guarani Indians making crafts, and they would just take them and give them to Spain and Portugal, and there were huge bringers of wealth in this. And of course, the Guarani Indians didn't get anything out of it. So this was the perfection that was able to be put down. By the way, social justice, a term that was coined by an Italian Jesuit named Tapparelli in South America. Nobody knows that either. So that is, let's see here, where was I? Yeah, so you were asking, give me your question again.
Well, I was just asking why it's necessary to know about them. Yeah, and of course communism, yeah.
Right, communism and Illuminati and Weishaupt. So, right, and okay, why bother look at the black nobility? Because the black nobility gets us closer. Black nobility gets us closer. It gets us looking past. Let me tell you something. As I was giving you examples, there is absolute legitimacy to examining these families, these mostly Italian families, powerful families, because they do have a much more substantive role than Rothschild and Rockefeller. But even so, they have to be plugged into the Roman Catholic system in order to derive that power, in order to execute that power. No one cares if a member of the Breakspear family comes to you, or the Colonna family comes to you, or the Borgia family comes. No one cares if they come to you and say, hey, well, I might be a little scared because you got a lot of money. You could hire people to make life miserable for me. But if a representative of the Roman Catholic Church comes to me and says, hey, the Holy Father wants you to do this, that's real power. That's real reach. And especially if I'm Catholic, that's reach. How many members of the Aldobrandini family are there around the world? How many members are there of Roman Catholicism around the world? Many of them are heads of state. Right now, there's a big hullabaloo. Candace Owens, with her white Roman Catholic husband, is making all kinds of waves and waters because she says that Brigitte Macron is a man, is formerly a man, is a transgender, and she is huge, man. She's huge. She's got like 4 million subscribers on YouTube. I firmly believe that her being fired from the Daily Wire was contrived. That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen anyone do. There's no way. If I'm running a conservative, I call it conservatard. I say that tongue in cheek because conservatives should know better. They should be able to look deeper. That's my background. And yet they, the best they want to do is purple pill. I've got a meme of what's his name? Fishburne, holding both pills and saying, "Did you just take both pills? What the hell is wrong with you?" That's the Q community that they only want to get somewhat awake. They want to say, yes, there's child trafficking and Donald Trump's going to save the day. Wait a minute. Donald Trump is a pedophile. So why would he save the day? Right? He's a puppet. Okay. So they get all wrapped up into this issue of whether Brigitte Macron is formerly a man, but nobody looks any deeper to what put her on the map, which is she's decades older than Emmanuel. And what happened? What's their background? What's their story? Emmanuel was going to his Jesuit high school. Brigitte, I don't know her former marriage name or her maiden name. She was a drama teacher at his Jesuit high school. She supposedly fell in love with him, left her husband and her children to marry her student at the Jesuit high school. That's the background story that no one's being given, not even from Candace Owens. And instead we want to focus and fixate on this craziness. And granted, this idea of transitioning genders, it's a thing. It's a real thing, but it's also a distraction. In the same way you get crypto Jew, that's something that's almost impossible to prove. What are you going to do? You're going to look at the Adam's apple. You're going to look at the facial structure. Very, very difficult, very easy to use as a distraction. Names, places, and dates, real power. Hollywood loaded with people. Go ahead.
Hang on. So what you're saying, if I'm following you, is that what matters is the outcome and not necessarily how they look or what their bloodline perhaps is.
The bloodline is important, but the outcome is far more important. What as Jesus said, a tree is known by its fruit. It is far more valuable to know. Okay, so you can say whether you can prove or not. Like I said, look at Ignatius Loyola. Whether you can prove or not he's a crypto Jew, what is his life? His life is empowering the Catholic Church. He created the special forces of the Catholic Church. What did Loyola do that helped the Jews? Like I was saying, Josh Shapiro, what put Josh Shapiro on the map? The current governor of Pennsylvania. He had a hearing in relation to child trafficking of the Roman Catholic Church. How many arrests were made? Whenever they want you to be distracted, they'll have politicians do a hearing. They'll do a report. They'll do a board. When they want to come after you, Jerm, they're going to come at you dressed in full battle rattle, kick your door in at 3 a.m. They'll have armored cars outside. They're going to shoot your dog. They're going to put a real assault rifle in your face and drag you off and disappear you. Nobody will know. But when they want to go after one of their own, first of all, the government committed a crime. Who's going to police the government? The government will police the government. Oh, okay. And then they'll write a check to the victims. Who pays the check? The taxpayer. You pay. Well, that's a great system. That's almost as good as Big Pharma being protected from vaccine injury illegally. It's illegal to sue any pharma company. And if there is any kind of recompense or payment, the taxpayer pays. That's why Bill Gates invests $1 million in Merck or Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer and gets $20 million in return. So always look at the bottom line. Go ahead.
Yeah. Weren't some of the black nobility also involved with the formation of the current state of Israel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the bottom line to that is the most important reason is as a distraction. Rothschild's absolutely involved. Other sources, let me tell you something. I've got a whole folder. Just give me a second. I'll pull it up. A whole folder on the Roman. Oh, by the way, we mentioned Napoleon Bonaparte. Did you know that this has been a Roman Catholic, a Vatican agenda for centuries to create Israel as a distraction? Napoleon Bonaparte had intended to do that. He had written a letter in 1798. And the letter spoke of how he was going to resurrect the nation of Israel as a safe haven for Jews to run to. Great egalitarian Napoleon Bonaparte was. Unfortunately, he lost against the Ottomans at Acre. And if he had not lost at Acre, we would have had an Israel 1798, 1947, decades before it ever happened. But in particular, you've got names like Zev Jabotinsky, who learned what it was to be a Zionist Jew while he was studying in Rome. I've got some other notes here. Here's the bottom line. If you don't have Jerusalem, where else are you going to look at a city that runs the world? You're going to look at Rome. If you have a Jerusalem, you're completely distracted. It is a masterstroke of bait and switch.
So what you're saying is all roads don't lead to Jerusalem.
No, they lead to Rome. Just like the metaphor says, all roads lead to Rome. And that's all the way back to the Roman Empire, transformed from a Christian Bible perspective. There is the dream of the prophet Daniel in the seventh chapter in the book of Daniel of the four beasts that the lion, the bear, and the leopard, and then the beast that is unlike any other, some kind of crazy dragon with teeth and claws of iron. Well, the reason why this fourth and final beast is unlike the previous beasts is because Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece and military Rome, they controlled the world by military conquest. They owned the world by putting a soldier on every street corner. Religious Rome transformed, grew out of military Rome, and the power and the reach became almost infinite. Now religious Rome controls by hearts and minds. Religious Rome controls by hearts and minds. Religious Rome no longer needs to put a soldier on every street corner. Religious Rome owns your soldiers. Religious Rome owns your police. The archetypical that you get in all the Martin Scorsese movies, the Irish Catholic cop, the Italian Catholic cop out of New York City, that's real. Waves and waves of immigrants. By the way, completing the Josh Shapiro, what put Josh Shapiro on the map. Josh Shapiro, a lawyer trained by the Jesuits at Georgetown. Who does the training? Josh Shapiro, Jewish, right? But who trained Josh Shapiro? How many of these prominent Jewish managers were trained in a Catholic school or a Jesuit school? That's what really matters. Who put them on that path? Who elevated them? And you think about this for a second, Jerm, is that if there is something above the Jews, you would want these Jews to be pushed into the spotlight and to take the heat. To be a something of a distraction, a smokescreen,
a punching bag.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And what makes it really, what makes it work, is that many of these people are disgusting people. George Soros is a cockroach. These people, Mark Zuckerberg is a joke. He's got that bowl haircut like the Three Stooges. What, dude? Are you? He's the brains behind social networking. No, he's not. He's a patsy. Even Elon Musk, I'm fully convinced that Elon Musk is not a legal entity. He's just a patsy. He's just a name and a face for a massive multi-billion-dollar system that's secretly run by intelligence. Yeah, patsies, just a patsy. Just like Oswald said. Oswald, by the way, touched in tight with the Roman Catholic. Oswald had an uncle who was devout Roman Catholic, brought Oswald to speak at a Jesuit school shortly before everything went down with the assassination of Kennedy.
Giovanni, because we had some technical issues at the start of the show, I will invite you back because there's a lot to talk about. But for now, let's come in for a landing. If you can tell me a bit more about how I can follow your work, but you have to do it with that Stallone twang.
Yo, so this is what you can do. You get on the internet and you can go look up the Johnny Cirucci, okay? What I mean is JohnnyCirucci.com. You can reach me at JohnnyCirucci.com. You can find me on the Odysee. You can find me on the BitChutes. You can find me on the Stumble, the Rumbles. You know what I mean? So just look up Resistance Rising or the Johnny Cirucci and you'll find me, okay? So, Adrian.
on the Rumbles.
On the Rumbles, okay? Yo, love you. Happy to come back, okay?
Giovanni Cirucci, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Love you, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to come back.